I've definitely seen that growth, and it definitely makes me happy because it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I might not get to enjoy, I might get to be too old by the time that the U.S. power metal scene really blossoms, but I'll be able to say, like, the next Lords of the Trident, the next Ty out there will have a much easier time
Yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
those tours, making those connections, and I think that's what it's all about.
The power of the Magi has conquered the earth, defiling, distorting the land.
Ty, it is good to see you. Last time well, not last time I spoke to you, but last time I interviewed you over Zoom, you were laid back in a house coat with your feet up. Now at least it looks like you took a shower for me. Thank you so much.
I did, it was my yearly shower. I just took it for you. I
Good,
didn't,
good.
don't have time to do it any other. No, that's actually a lie. I love showers. I take as many showers on the road as I humanly can. I think that's one of the rules of the road generally. In when you're on tour, like if a shower is offered to you, you take the shower, even if
Yeah,
you just had a shower like 5 minutes ago, because you never know when the next shower is going to be. So when I'm
yeah.
home, I take as many showers as I can get away with.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, showers are important. Laundry is important, especially for people wearing um, let's call it leather protection while they're
Yeah.
playing because
Oh
that
yeah.
smells great after just one show. Fantastic, awesome. Now, but we you shared with everybody that you had your body needed a break a few weeks ago, so you're all better. It's just organizing festivals and playing festivals over a mile high. That's how you kill a god.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny. The weekend after Mad with Power. So I'm in the System of a Down tribute band that I accidentally joined about a year and a half ago, and they only play like 3 or 4 shows a year. But they're like, oh, we got this big show in Des Moines, and it's the weekend after Mad with Power. Like, Ty, could you do it? And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I didn't want to. So, the 900 person like Mad with Power Fest, where I'm literally going around and hugging everyone. I don't get COVID there. No, 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 no. The next weekend, when I go to Des Moines to play a new metal show where there's only like 90 people, and I go hide in the green room the entire time and I don't talk to anybody, that's where I get COVID. Of course. So it's like, yeah. So I had COVID that week, 2 weeks after Mad with Power, and the COVID was so bad that it actually revealed a kidney infection that apparently I had been fighting for some time,
Hmm.
and just kind of took over. So for the week before and actually during Mile High Power Fest out in Denver, I was on these like giant horse pill antibiotics. Couldn't drink. Couldn't no fun. No fun
Yeah.
allowed. I just had to be on antibiotics. But luckily, those are all done now. I can have fun again, and Mile High Power Fest was great. So it's all worth it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good to see another festival popping up like that and supporting this scene. You weren't a lone crusader necessarily, but you were one of few.
Yeah.
The the evolution of popularity of certain metal genres, subgenres in the States seems to continue and even accelerate. I was actually this week in the States for Powerwolf and Unleash the Archers going through, right?
Yeah.
And drawing
Yeah. Yeah.
good crowds as well. So for somebody like on the front lines 24/7 like yourself, do you see that as well? Like, are you more hopeful for the scene than you were 5 years ago?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, my general idea, and I know I've talked about this before, is that everybody had griped and continues to gripe in some circles about power metal in America not being as popular,
Hmm.
not like a lot of bands not coming over here, and that kind of stuff. And the way that I saw it is that if we wanted power metal to become more popular in the States, we had to make the ground fertile, so to speak,
Right, right.
for new bands to pop up. Because at the time that I started Mad with Power Fest, I mean, there were like 7 or 8 like mid-level power metal bands in the States, and we all knew each other. And every time we went on tour, we had such a hard time finding other power metal bands to play with. We'd usually play with like death metal bands or punk bands or something like that. And so I thought, you know, at that time, there wasn't really anything for a younger band to like aim towards and say, I could realistically play that in 3 to 4 years, you know, if we get good. I mean, there was Prog Power, but like they weren't booking any US bands whatsoever. So really, there wasn't much that a band could like shoot for if they were in power metal. You know, so a lot of bands would go into like hard rock or death metal or that kind of stuff. And so I think that by creating these festivals, creating these scenes, and doing all these collaborations with other bands, we're showing, you know, the U.S. scene that, you know, there's a place for you here, and there's something for you to shoot for, and there's something that you can realistically get to, you know, so long as you want to work for it. And I have seen the general U.S. scene kind of grow over the last, you know, I mean, 8 years at this point that we've been doing Mad with Power. I've definitely seen that growth, and it definitely makes me happy, because it's like, you know, I might not get to enjoy, you know, I might get to be too old by the time that the U.S. power metal scene really blossoms, but I'll be able to say, like, you know, the next Lords of the Trident, the next Ty out there will have a much easier time doing those tours, making those connections. And I think that's what it's all about. It's about, you know, creating, you know, growing the trees under which we will never sit. You know, that's the general idea.
I mean, it's also, you know, Congress in the States is helping you as well with increasing the visas so much that
lots of help. Thanks, guys.
Chances for American bands to play the festival went up as well.
Yeah, that is definitely true. That is definitely true.
You got some cool stuff coming. You're also, I mean, flat out competing with some of the massive Euro festivals, because you're gonna move Mad with Power from August to June now. That's exciting as well, and we've seen some really cool bands announced. What prompted that change?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. First off, you know, we moved to the beginning of August this year because the Metallica was touring around the same time, and we were like, we're not going to go up against Metallica, even if it's 4 or 5 hours away. No, we're not going to do that. So there was that. Also, we are sort of on the third weekend of August, where we used to be. We were close to Prog Power, and we had a lot of people saying, "Oh, I want to go to both, but I can't afford both." You know, so we decided we're going to space it out a little bit. The issue we ran into was Gen Con, one of the biggest like nerd conventions in Indianapolis. They decided to also move to the first weekend of August. We're like, oh no! So we lost a bunch of the nerds to Gen Con, which is, you know, that's our bread and butter. Like, I wanted to go to Gen Con too, but then also Mile High Power Fest started up, and Soren and I had conversations during the process of setting it up. You know, I gave him kind of my playbook and what we do. I gave him my full, like, you know, like full blessing, like, go for it. More fests is good for the scene. Absolutely. But he ended up putting that fest like 2 weeks after Mad with Power Fest as well. So it's like, it got a little crunched in that time. So I wanted to move it away from Prog Power and from Mile High Power Fest to give them a chance to grow. And I also, the main reason, or one of the main reasons that we moved it over to June is because we would run into bands from Europe that we'd want to bring over, or even just bands in the States and Canada that we wanted to bring to Mad with Power Fest. And they would always say, like, oh, we're playing Wacken, or oh, we're playing Rock Am Ring. And it's, you know, it's around that July, August, September kind of time frame. So I looked at the timeline of all of the European festivals for the summer, and for the most part, it looked like they kind of started up the second or third weekend of June, and then went into like the second or third weekend of September. So I decided to move it to the first weekend of June, so that hopefully we could catch some of those bands that were going over to the European festivals and have Mad with Power kind of be their like festival warm up before they go over to Europe, you know. So I hope that by moving it over there, we'll have more opportunities to book some bigger bands that would normally be courted by those European festivals.
So
second year in a row, you're bringing as far as we know, at least one Japanese band in the upcoming event with Bright Ear. Let's use that as a bit of a segue, because we've got obviously the EP coming out. We'll spend some time on that, but you are going back to Japan with seven spires. I was about to say seven kingdoms.
I know there's too many seven bands, like seven kingdoms, seven spires, seven wonders. So, you know, it's like could we do a six band, like six spires?
Yeah, exactly. But that's gonna be really cool. I mean, their album that they just released is also phenomenal. For the lucky ones, because you've got a festival there as well, I think, that you're playing. But you know, for the lucky ones, I get to see you there because you know, most people that watch these interviews that I do are European or American based viewers. But for the lucky ones that find themselves in Japan later this year, what can they expect?
Yeah, we're gonna be. I will say that right now there's some inklings of perhaps doing some shared stage time in a way, you know, like between us and
Wait, Ty joining another band on stage? Unheard of.
Unheard of. Never heard of. But you know, Adrian and I are now pretty used to singing together, us being in the Sonic Symphony now together. So you know, we've been kind of talking behind the scenes of like, ooh, could we collab on this, and ooh, could we bring you out for that, and ooh, you know. So I think there's going to be it's going to be an incredible show. Lords of the Trident back to back with Seven Spires is just a treat. Like, that'd be a show that I'd want to see. Right. So it's going to be a great show for our Japanese fans and for Japanese fans of Seven Spires. And then also, you know, there's just going to be a lot of fun camaraderie. There's going to be a lot of, you know, collaboration and, you know, a lot of fun. I think one of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to on the trip outside of the shows is, you know, we're bringing 40 of our fans along with us, and we're doing like a sightsee by day, follow us on tour by night tour package. And so I think the opportunities to, you know, do like dual band fun time outside of the shows, you know, going to visit shrines, going to the hot springs, eating food together, you know, all that sort of stuff. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for that. And I'm really looking forward to spending some good quality, like, friend time with everybody in Spires and everybody in Lords. We so rarely get a chance to do that. You know, we get together at festivals, and, you know, we'll have maybe like a half a day, and both of us have our brains in like other places. Like, I got to warm up. I got to think about this. I got to think about that. It'll be nice to have a couple weeks to just sort of chill and really make those connections.
Yeah.
And I think too, you know,
backstage otherwise.
Yeah, and I think to make the connections with the fans that are coming over as well is always something that I very much look forward to. You know, I'm a type of person who, you know, as you can tell from me making Mad with Powerfest, I get a lot of joy out of creating events and spaces and opportunities for other people to have fun, and I get a lot of like joy out of watching people have fun and experience things for the first time. I like having fun too, don't get me wrong, but I also get as much joy as, like, you know, creating those spaces. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the reactions of people seeing things in Japan for the first time, experiencing riding the train, getting on the bullet train, you know, all that sort of stuff. It's gonna be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, you mentioned earlier that, you know, one of the reasons you had to move Mad with Power was to not be at the same time as I forget the convention that you were mentioning.
Gen Con.
Gen Con, because you don't want to lose the nerds. So let's use that as or the geeks. So let's use that as a segue to the new EP, the video game EP. Because, you know, people that know you slightly might know that you have just a little affinity with the world of gaming. People that have been at the festival.
Like it. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, not really, you know, but whatever.
Really. There's
not a single video game reference in that, you know, room behind you there. You really have to look for it, but when it comes out, it comes out. You kind of treated this as another Beyonce moment, where you kind of dropped this for the patrons. It's going to be available in a few weeks from now for the broader audience. We see 5 very different sides of Lords of Trident on this EP. Was that Was that the goal, to really paint as broad as possible with this EP, which is not always possible, you know? What was the mindset, I guess, going into this one?
Yeah, you know, up until a lot of people found out about us through our last record, The Offering. We got a lot of new fans from that, and that is, you know, kind of stylistically and musically somewhat consistent. You know, it's a little bit more of a sound, so to speak. And I think that if you look at any of the previous records that we've released, Lords of the Trident has always been very, like, all over the board. We've never really had a defined sound. We've always painted with very broad brushstrokes, because a lot of us like very different areas of metal and power metal in general. And so, you know, I think I almost think this was sort of somewhat a return to that style of writing. Part of the reason that it's also all over the board, I think, was a lot of these songs were leftovers, or, you know, B-sides, or things that we wrote for The Offering that we just found like they were too happy, or they were too stylistically different to kind of fit that mold. But we still loved those songs, and we still really wanted to do something with them. So after we finished The Offering, we had these, you know, 4 songs plus the Valerie cover sitting around. And we're like, well, you know, let's go ahead and make this into an EP. Let's theme it around video games. You know, we'll find some video games that we love and just kind of write like that. You know, so it was, I don't know if it was necessarily like a conscious choice to go more broad, but it's just that's kind of like what the songs were that we wrote, and that got left over from The Offering. But yeah, I think it's a little bit more normal for us to be kind of all over the board, for better or for worse. I've heard some people, you know, say that's a detriment. Some people say that's a strength. I don't know. I guess that's up to the listener, I suppose.
Yeah. Does that mean what I hear you say is that in order to make a strong, cohesive album last time, you kind of had to block out some parts of the identity of the band, and you're now allowing them back in. So what does that mean if you think about a next full-length album? Like, should we expect still a desire to have a collective, a cohesive collective, or should we expect a more, you know, eccentric buffet of what you guys are all about in the future?
Oh, I like eccentric buffet. That's a good way of describing it. I'm going to use that in the future for like press releases.
Sounds good.
You know, I think we learned a lot of lessons from The Offering, because it was our first concept record, and it was our first kind of like attempt to make something a little bit more cohesive storyline wise and vibe wise. You know, it's a sad record. It's a sad story. And so I think, you know, I don't want to speak for the rest of the guys, but I think that, you know, we'll probably pay a little bit more attention towards that musical vibe for our next full length. I have a general idea. It's on what I want the theme of the next full length to be, and I've already written a number of like lyrics and songs. Not, you know, like I've a little diddly, like, you know, I don't write music as well as, like, you know, Aki or the Baron, right? You know, I can't write on that level, but I can write little, like, you know, like chorus lines and that kind of stuff, little melodies. So I've written, you know, little melodies and a lot of like lyrics that have no backing on this sort of theme that I've been working on for a couple of years now, and I think. I'm going to say that I don't think that the next record is going to have necessarily a cohesive story, but it will have something very central that ties everything together, and I think it's going to be an interesting way for people to interact with the album. It will be themed, right? But it won't be like a storyline theme. So I think that'll be. I'm interested to see how people react to that, if that's the direction we end up taking, which I hope it will be.
This EP brings a couple of really, really good bangers that I expect you'll play live on this upcoming tour. I've lost count how many official live recordings there are at this point of Lords of the Trident, but can we keep our fingers crossed that, especially if you're teasing some special collaborations maybe with Adrian, can we keep our fingers crossed that we'll get an official live recording of this tour?
You leaked it, but that is the plan. Generally, we're going over now. We rebuilt our in-ear monitoring system from the ground up to make it like flyable. You know, so we flew it in for it's a whole different system. We flew it in for Mile High Power Fest, and of course we're going to fly it in for Japan and use it for all the shows. And one of the things that we built into it, just like our main ear system that we use for regular shows, is we built in multi-track recording. So the hope is that we are going to capture as many of the live shows as we can, hopefully all of them for both bands. And then I think the plan is, or at least my plan, you know, we'll see, is to make, you know, a live in Japan album that we can release and have it be kind of a collab between us and Seven Inspires. We might even do like a, you know, they do a live in Japan, we do a live in Japan album. But I think it would be neat to do like a split, you know, like maybe 4 or 5 songs from us, 4 or 5 songs from them. Could be really neat. So yeah, that is the plan. That is my plan, I will say. I haven't 100% discussed it with Spires. And of course, we'll have to see how if you know, if we suck every night in Japan, then maybe not. But if as long as we're good, I think we will look at that being a definite possibility.
For somebody, I mean, I think, you know, we were joking earlier, even before recording, that, you know, you're a guy that it's hard for you to stay still or to sit still. With Mad with Power coming up in June and this Japanese tour that may or may not result in a live recording and a new album coming out, those are all already big things for, you know, the indiest of indie bands to take on. But you're a guy that likes, you know, big audacious goals. Now that Mad with Power, we kind of expect it from you. What is there another thing on that bucket list for you that sounds too stupid to pull it off, but you might just do it?
I mean, you know, I think this year we already became the first band in history to, like, you know, drum in an electric field of 100,000 volts. So that was a big, stupid, audacious thing that we ended up doing. But you know, the big, stupid, audacious thing for 2025 that we're in the process of doing right now is a European tour. And I can't say who it's. This is all early, so it's not 100% confirmed here, and I can't say who it's with. Right. But it is with someone related to Mad with Power. And we're looking at, you know, a couple of weeks all around Europe, probably Central Europe, maybe a little bit of Scandinavia up there, you know, and I think so. That's one of the big audacious goals. There's another big audacious goal that we're kind of also in the middle of planning for 2025, which is a larger U.S. tour. Supporting a major band, which at the moment it's looking good. It's looking like things are moving forward in that regard. And I think, you know, if I had to like guesstimate, we're probably looking at like a June to July timeline and maybe like a greater East Coast, like all the way up and down the East Coast. We did the West Coast last year, so I'm thinking we're going to do East Coast this year. But yeah, our recent trajectory and our recent goals have been more aligned with the idea of doing a couple of big tours per year, and then just writing. So we're gonna probably cut down on the amount of regional touring that we do, on the amount of local shows that we do. We don't really do very many local shows as it stands, but you know, the amount of regional shows that we do, we're probably gonna cut down on that a bit. We're gonna probably focus a lot more on writing, and we're gonna get more into that idea of like, okay, we do 2 big blasts a year, you know, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks kind of a thing, and then the rest of the time is write, you know, make more YouTube videos, make more covers, make more stuff like that. So I think because of that timeline, you'll probably see a lot more You'll probably see a lot more live streams from us. You'll probably see a lot more YouTube related stuff from us coming out, and you know, and then who knows what the future will bring. You know, once we have some extra time. You know, every time I have extra time, I find a way to like jam something new into it and fill it. So that's my curse, I guess.
Gonna take my name all around this city. Trying to get the eyes of burning.
You mentioned earlier that one of the things that make you the happiest is creating a format or a platform for others to be happy, and that people can heal through that and deal with shit. Tell me if you don't like me asking this, but it was obviously a very special moment at Mad with Power this year. Documented, and don't necessarily need to go into that, but was that a nice is maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, but was that a nice bounce back moment for a trying year for the new wave of nice metal buds year?
Yeah, I'd hope so. You know, I think there's a lot of when everything kind of went down, we saw, and I think this is actually, you see this not only in our festival but at Mile High and at Prague Power. We saw actually a very marked decrease in pre-sales in ticket sales ahead of time. Yeah. I think it had partially had to do with, you know, the stuff that happened this year. I think partially it also has to do with just ticket prices for most concerts in general being crazy. Ours are not crazy. Ours are very, very cheap. But, you know, I think that there was less of an excitement to go out and see power metal, to go out and be in that area, and to be reminded of, you know, the hurt that a lot of us went through. And so, yeah, I think that what happened this year, hopefully was a reminder, you know, and outside of Glyph's set, I think Mad with Power in general was hopefully a very strong reminder for people of the good that can come out of the community, of the friendships that can come out of the community, and just of the you know, the amazing ability to get people in a room, have them talk to each other, have them heal, have them become friends, you know, even if it's just, you know, forgetting their problems for a couple hours, you know, with their friends. I think that can be very cathartic, very healing, and very good. So I'm hopeful that, you know, that this year was a reminder, and the events that we had, and the, you know, and the things that went down during this year's Mad with Power was a strong reminder to people of the good that our community can do, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, on that hopeful note, let's wrap it up, and also with the knowledge that we'll have many opportunities, it sounds like, in 2025 to see you guys on a stage. It's still early days, but I'll keep my fingers crossed. Also, I want to be at Mad with Power in June. I think it's gonna be a great addition, I think. So I hope that works out. And let's see if all these to be posted or to be announced shows bring you up to Canada. Otherwise, we'll come down to the south. No worries. Ty, thank you so much for opening up and you know, being okay to talk about a million different things. Exciting times for the EP to come out. And yeah, take lots of footage of Japan, share it with everybody like myself who would want to be there but can't. Very, very jealous. And I look forward to seeing you soon in the flesh.
All right, sounds great.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it, and subscribe to the channel.